Right, if you can just get everybody to grab a seat, we will kick off our meeting very shortly.
Can you put camera at the front there somewhere? Do we need to just plug the third one in, just in case, or that's a power thing? Okay, so we just need to plug the HDMI cable in, essentially. And it dies.
Carl, Adele.
Hello, Adele. How are you?
Good. I had a question.
Yeah.
Oh, look at all these excited faces. Hello, everybody. Welcome. How are we all? Our beautiful children of revolution.
Yep. Can we talk after the show? Yeah, come and see me after the show. See me after the show.
I'm very, very excited tonight. We've got an absolute wealth of information coming towards you tonight. As you're all aware, the Ainslie group have come down from Brisbane. They've also got an office in Melbourne, and they will be providing us with some really exciting information. I'm sure we've all been watching the silver prices. Like, did it just jump another like $4 in the last week and a half? Hello. Wow. So that's coming up shortly. So I just got a few announcements, and we've got a few things that we've got going on in our community that we're going to cover tonight. So first of all, the fire ants. I know that we had a meeting on Sunday. I'm pretty sure there was a few of you who were able to attend that meeting. I think Aldwin was organising that. So there's certainly a lot of concern in our community for the toxins in the fire ant treatment. And also it appears that it's been stepped up another level. The police are now checking for ants. Don't worry about the pedophiles, don't worry about the criminals, don't worry about all the other nefarious stuff going on in the world. It's not the ants. And they'll jump your fence, I've been told. Crazy stuff. So I don't think Jay's here at the moment. I haven't seen her, but I just wanted to give a quick thank you to Jay. Last meeting we had, she enlightened us all to some of the chemical quantities that were being dispersed, and we're also under attack from the skies. Has anybody had their property sprayed from the sky in the last couple of months? Yeah. So they just treat that. How did they manage in an aircraft? Just fly right around your boundary? Wow. And that's really loud too, the chopper that low. I could imagine how loud that would have been. Exactly. Now, Alistair's not here. He's down in Victoria at the moment. But as you know, he's a very prominent part of the My Place community. He works with establishing the new meetings, the new groups, as they come along and say, there's 6 of us in our little town and we'd like to join in with the community for My Place. So he helps establish, makes connections, and just, helps them if they've got problems, just questions. Sometimes I'll go to him, I say, look, I want to talk about this, here's my little soapbox moment, and I say, I want to say this, and, sometimes he'll give me it from a different perspective, and I might just sort of tame it down, or I might fire it up, sometimes he's like, yes, that's awesome. So I appreciate Alistair's friendship and what he does for the My Place community, for the nation. Like, he doesn't just deal with Queensland, like this awesome legend next to me. So I just saw Alistair's got a message here about My Place Australia is creating a group for men to empower men. Now, I know there's a lot of us girls who get up and say, us women, we're the powerhouse pushing everything along. It's the mums who want to see a better generation. for their families. But I'm really excited that this Empowering Men, because it's got to be a full force. We can't just gender, and say the women are so powerful, but we all need to stand in our power together. So he's creating a group for men to empower men. While the world has been crazy for a long time, it's amping up quickly and heavily these days. Many men are having everything taken from them. We want to stand with these men and do everything we can to empower them. We've already got some awesome men leading the way, and yay! And where's Kevin? Kevin's one of our other very strong, prominent, empowered men. Go Kev. We've already got some awesome men leading the way and would love to have more on board. So Alistair said, please shoot him a text if it resonates with you. And he also then says, we need everything that our powerful women have on offer. And so you are also welcome to contact me if you are called. So if anybody does want to come and grab his number off me, I do have that information. Now, we've got some shirts over there. Steph, do you want to just have a quick chat about your shirts and your Send Me an Angel project that we are very excited to be working with?
Hey everybody. Okay. Can you see the gorgeous Sue? She's our model. Grant, could you come over too, please? We have men's and women's available. So on the front, now this, our beautiful Sue has been there the whole way. So one of our beautiful vaccine-injured people on the Gold Coast, Tasha Warland, has come up with this idea with a little bit of help from her friends, and it's called Send Me an Angel. So our vaccine-injured people are being gaslit by the medical community, and they're being ignored by the bureaucrats and the people in power. So it's up to us as a community to come together and support our vaccine-injured. So that's what this whole initiative is about. What we want to do is not only support them by buying a t-shirt, wearing a t-shirt, but also, if you've got a little bit of time, can you go down the road, do some shopping, mop a floor, clean a bathroom? It's as easy as the things that we do day in, day out. So this is in its absolute baby stages. We're looking at bringing together the people, the angels in the community, and also supporting our vaccine injured. So you can do that by buying a shirt. I am Love Mama on the socials. You can contact me and I will get a shirt to you. They're $25, but every single cent that we make goes back into either making another t-shirt or making a box that goes to our vaccine injured, and as Tasha would say, to bring a smile to their day. Because let me tell you, a lot of these guys don't have much to smile about. Their lives have been destroyed as they know it. So what I am so excited to do tonight, and I'm sorry I won't take much time, but we had a raffle started a few months ago that was made by Tasha, and we want to draw that tonight. So, where's Luke? Where's Luke going? Oh, thank you, Luke. We're going to get you to draw it. So, Sue, do you want to grab that box, darling? Okay, you give it a shuffle and a shake. Here we go. All righty. No cheating. Come on. Thank you. Okay, first prize goes to Fairly Airy. Thanks. Alrighty, second prize. Go on, Brad. Oh, Luke, you are just so talented. Alrighty. Second prize goes to Sarah, care of Sue. Sarah?
That's my neighbour.
That's your neighbour one. That's wonderful. Hey, thank you, neighbour, for supporting. See, you don't even just have to keep it in. You just bring your neighbours in. It's so cool. Alrighty, and last one, lucky last, is Brad. Do we have Brad here tonight? Alright, we've got a phone number for Brad, so we'll follow that through and make sure Brad gets his prize. So thank you everybody for the support. T-shirts are there, they're $25 each, and we really appreciate your support. If anyone wants to be an angel, come see me. If anybody knows somebody that's vaccine injured that we can support, please come see me. I also got Wendy Daniels' fabulous books over there, they're $20 each. I've decided I'll become a grifter. I've got something for sale everywhere I go. All right, that's me. I'm off. Love you guys. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, darling. Now, our beautiful Deborah Yule has organised some mailbox flyers.
Bring her back in
Where's my
shot.
Sue? She's going to hold these up for me, I thought. That's right. I can multitask. There we go.
Yeah.
Right. We've just got a handful of pizza. So these are flyers to put in to mailboxes or pin them up on notice boards. Thank you, Keith. And it's being produced by the AMS, so the Australian Medical Professional Society, who I'm sure you're all very well aware of their amazing actions that they've been working towards in relation to the current agenda. So they are $20 for 500 flyers, and that would be an amazing way to support our community and also get information out. We've also got some honey for sale from my back garden, and I've also got some corruption whistleblower newspapers. Here she is. Oh, because you did that amazing reading like that. I could not have done what you did last time, just saying. I would have struggled. Okay, just a few more things to go. I'm excited to talk about, where's my Sarah? We can have you, come on, where's my Sarah? This woman and I met at rallies, probably 3.5 years into our rally. We just connected like nobody's ever torn us apart. So Sarah has been so privileged, if I can use that word. Do you feel that's an appropriate word for what you're about to talk about?
Yes, I do feel very privileged for what's taking place. Can't wait to tell you guys about it.
Hang on, we've just got to clear the floor. Okay, so over to you, Sarah. I already had this on my list, but now I've got more info, so Sarah's in.
All right, well, thanks for having me tonight, guys. Tonight is my first My Place here on the Gold Coast, so you guys all rock. So thanks for having me. So I'm just chatting tonight about, as you guys, I'm sure, are aware, there was that amazing vote recently at the Port Hedland's WA Council. So I'm sure that we were all watching that. So I, like probably all of you guys here, over the last 3 or 4 years, have sent many emails and made many phone calls to people, to support them, but also to let them know how upset I was over their behaviour over the last 3 or 4 years. So like you guys, I was like, okay, I need to send these councillors support for their yes vote in WA, the Port Hedland's council. So I sent them. I found their details on the internet and I sent them text messages, I sent them emails, and I rang them. I wasn't just doing one. I'm like, these guys are bloody legends. So we all need to support them. So I was not expecting any type of response. Usually it's an automated response if you're lucky. However, after ringing all the councillors and emailing them, the amazing Adrian McRae called me. So for everybody who's not in the know, Adrian was the man who put the motion forward in the Port Hedland's Council, the successful motion. So it was amazing to hear that from him. And he had a message that he asked me to give all the freedom fighters around. He said, Sarah, you need to tell everybody with ears, we need you guys to call the other councillors. So obviously Adrian, it was his baby, he put the motion forward, he understands exactly what we're all up against. And so he has asked he has asked us to contact the other councillors, so the other yes voters. Adrian is very concerned about the pressure coming down from the federal government. He said it's also coming higher. The pressure, obviously, they're very unhappy that we're questioning, that there could be contamination of the COVID vaccine. So Adrian has asked all of the freedom fighters to get the message out. He is concerned that those other councillors are going to fold under the pressure. It's a bit of a pizza moment we have happening, he said. He explained to me that at the same time that all this pressure is coming down from the federal government and higher, to stop the questioning of the contamination. But he said that at the same time, the federal government is sneakily trying to dissolve that council. He said that if the council is dissolved, that WA Port Hedland's council, obviously it just stops in its tracks. And so we don't want that to happen. Sorry, have I explained that clearly enough? So yeah, he wants all of us to get on board and support those other councillors because he's quite concerned. Adrian actually had to leave the country. The pressure is that intense at the moment. So it's really important. Obviously, Adrian is happy if we all message and contact Adrian, but he said that it's really important to message and get the support to those other councillors because they don't understand exactly what we're up against, and he's afraid that with all that intense pressure, it's just going to crumble. So we need to let those councillors of WA know that Australia has their back. We want answers, and we're not allowing the elephant in the room to continue to grow and just ignore it like the rest of Australia. So everybody, spread the message. We need to contact these councillors, and they need to know that we love them and support them, and we appreciate integrity and courage. Thank you, everybody.
Keep in check.
Lovely work. Now, Sarah, don't run away because we've got something important. Tracy, where's my Tracy? There she is. The beautiful Tracy, Sarah and I just, over the last little bit of time, we've organised for the letter to Gold Coast City Council. So this letter is going out to every single local council in the nation, and we are being asked to help. So there's an envelope and a letter and a $2.50 donation to cover the double-sided printing. The girls have organised, I think there's 30 or 40 of them, maybe even more. So if anybody wants to grab one of these packages, the envelopes are even included too. And it's basically saying it's from the Port Hedland Council, and it's saying to all the local councils in Australia, the deputy mayors, the mayors and the councillors, and it's enclosing the data that's been disclosed in the Port Hedland's meeting. So it's there, they cannot deny, if even if 50 of us in our community of the 1 million people that live on the Gold Coast, surely we can get 50 of these sent to the Gold Coast City Council before the end of the week. That's what I'd like to see. If anybody's interested, come and see me over at the end. Thank you, Sarah, you're amazing. Thank you, Hayley. Okay, Luke, before I keep going on and on, you're next.
Follow her.
Wow, look at this.
Follow him.
Hey everybody.
Whoever's on the microphone.
I want to say thank you for everyone for coming down, and thank you for the beautiful people from Ainslie for travelling down from Brisbane, and Kaz Smith as well. Carl up the back, Carl Liebold. Give her a applause, come on. Who hasn't been to a My Place meeting before? Excellent, welcome. We've got an email list that's approaching 500 very quickly. We'll get the information out. We've got a business register which is, still there. We want to refresh that and look at improving that and growing on that. Like, look at all this amazing stuff we've got here, honey, and this is what it's all about. The other part I wanted to talk about just briefly is who's heard of the camp out that we're going to do at the end of November? Sweet, so we've got a bit of a message coming out, that's awesome. We have a camp out happening at Blackbutt, which is about sort of 2.5 hours going the back way. You don't have to go to freaking crazy toll road. And it's going to be over the weekends of the 31st and the 1st of December. We've got a couple of people doing meditation in the mornings already. There's a few people that are going to do workshops. Friday night's going to be basically, chill and get to know each other like we basically do all the time. But we know people here, there's lots of people that are going from all different groups out to there that even I haven't met. There's a whole heap of coordinators across the Sunshine Coast I haven't even met face to face. Had a million conversations with them, but obviously it's different when it's that face to face, when you're in the same room and sharing a coffee or a beer, So we're really looking forward to it. So you have to be saying that you're going after RSVP. I think it's by the 15th or the 17th of November, don't quote me on that. I'm going to put more information out on obviously the Southport page and over the emails and everything. If you want to conduct a workshop, more than welcome as well. So we're going to start to do more, I think, social interaction events. We've had 2 community gatherings down at Mudgery now, and they've been absolutely incredible. And thank you for the support of that, because I did not expect them to go the way they went. I thought it would be me and a few other people just having a coffee, sitting in the park looking like hobos. But it's not. We literally had our first successful crop swap because Ron from up in Mudgery brought some stuff down. So it's beautiful. So there'll be another one of them coming up. If you need any information that you haven't found, because we do get incredibly sensitive. I'm sure these guys do too. I'm sure they get sensitive as well. We're all always trying to break the mold, trying to get information out. It's important we continue to do so. So yeah, if you need any information on anything, please reach out to me, mainly by Southport. And if you want to get on the email, I said that before. Did that just go over your head? Concentrating. Love it. Yeah. So even come up to me tonight if you want to get on the email list if you're new to what we do. And this is what it's about: putting unity back in your community.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah. All right, back to Fairley. Thank you.
Okay, follow her.
Tagging.
Follow her.
Just a couple of things. Who's the next Victorian here? There's I wonder why do you think that is? I just wanted to cover off a couple of really quick things. So the Victorians, bless their souls, are going to pay $220 million to Scotland because Scotland's now going to be hosting the Olympic Games in 2026. It's only going to have 10 sports, and Victoria's already paid $330 million not to host the Games. This is beg your pardon, it is the Commonwealth, beg your pardon. And then bless his cotton socks, he's gone and got a job for Engerman. I know, the mental health and youth. He's now going to be running the mental health and the youth division. Oh, give me strength. And what about our Prime Minister Albanese with his $4.3 million coastal mansion? And a little bit of peanut gallery going on over there. Is that you, Pete? And then $100 million upgrade for the road going to his new mansion. So, not my favourite people, the politicians. My anti-government sentiment does tend to fluctuate a little bit here and there. But I have got some exciting news. I did adventure interstate last month. I met Rod Cullerton from the Great Australian Party. I also met Nicola Charles. Who's heard of Nicola Charles? Yes, we're in for the right. Yes, okay, that's good. I'm glad that you guys know who she is. She spoke really well. I was really impressed with her. She's running for the Senate down in Victoria, I do believe it's the Senate. And so part of the other process of that event was a writ of summons that Rod Cullerton has now filed in the High Court. And this writ of summons is a challenge to the Section 92 Clive Palmer versus Western Australia precedent that was set during the scandemic, where they wouldn't let anybody cross the borders. So what they're trying to actually achieve is to preempt the bird flu, the monkeypox, the COVID-3, whatever M virus, X disease shit that they want to throw. They're trying to preempt the fact that they can't shut the borders on us because we are a nation and there are no actual state borders that exist on the land. So I'm really excited to be following that because I'm hoping that High Court challenge is successful and that they are able to overturn that disastrous precedent that was set back in November 2021, I think it was. Okay, I think that's everything on my list. Oh, did you guys hear that the Gympie Council's not gonna take the fluoride out of the water now? Like they said they were, like I heard that like 2 weeks ago. I was super excited. The My Place group up at Gympie had petitioned the council and the council had agreed that they were going to, but now I've heard just in the last few days, oh, have you got an update? Because I'm not hearing that they're gonna go ahead with taking it out of the water. It's too hard or too expensive.
So they've won the battle, but they haven't won the war. That's what I've been told. There's still a very lengthy ongoing process. It's public accountability, it's pressure on councillors. You know, they can do this. They've literally got their foot in the door, so they can do this, and it is possible. Well, it's the local councils that make the decision in Queensland. I think New South Wales, don't quote me, this approved. Yeah, from the council. Yeah, and us. So it is very much possible it's going to continue to actually get removed. I don't think we should lose hope, but they're going to try and not remove it. So it's a matter of like, if anyone's got family or friends up in Gympie or the surrounding areas, because it's a fairly big council, you know, let them know they really need to start to put that pressure on. It's not said and done. Alona Milan, who's absolutely amazing, a lot of us know, you know, she's a councillor up there. She's busted her ass to get to where she's today. So they need our support. So it's possible it's going to happen. It's just, you know, they do this to mess with us. You know, we'll give them a little bit, but that's when we've got to really keep the pressure up, and they can do it. I think Toowoomba, one of their plants that pumps it into the water shut down, and it was too expensive for them to fix. So there's a large section of Toowoomba that doesn't have fluoride water.
A really big spanner. It's an adjustable wrench.
I've got a grinder.
Okay.
Anyone heard of the Blade Brothers? Yeah, of course. Anyway.
Thanks, Luke. Okay, and just one last thing. Where's our Christine? Oh, there she is. Give us a big wave, our beautiful Christine. Show off your shirt. How's her shirt? This woman is such a warrior for the children, and she's a very regular stayer down at the Governor General's. Our beautiful Christine. We all know what an absolute champion she is. So there's a call out the 2nd and 3rd of November at 10 a.m. At the Governor General's in Canberra. That is 1,000 days that they have been standing at the Governor General's demanding that the suppression order be lifted. So they're also putting a nation call out to anybody who can get to one of the Governor General's offices in the capital city. So Brisbane, if you are able to traverse up to Brisvegas at 10 o'clock on both the 2nd and the 3rd of November. So a couple of weeks' time, if that. Okay, I think that's everything. Okay, so without further ado, we have this is like a panel. This is awesome. I could be asking questions. No, I'm going to let you do all the speaking because I've done enough tonight. So if everybody can please welcome the Ainslie group and also Cass from Freedom Financial. Thank you very much. I'll let the gentlemen introduce themselves.
come up and... No pressure. On the spot. First of all, thank you very much for inviting us here. We've actually come and spoken to My Place Gold Coast before in different sort of formats, but we're going to do it a little bit differently tonight. So thank you to Fairley for the invitation. Thank you to Carl and his Voice of Freedom team who are actually live streaming this evening as well. So it's all a little bit different. So Carl does a wonderful job. We have we're increasingly long connection with My Place that has been going on for a little while now, because there's just this intersection between precious metals and, you know, sovereign money, or however you want to think about it, and the My Place movement. So we really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to groups like this. Now we're going to do a little bit differently this evening. We've got a panel. So we have Cass, first of all, from Freedom Financial Solutions. And some of you will have seen Cass's work before, specifically dealing with self-managed super funds. So she has also been working really closely with the My Place community around the country, really, but here with us to come and speak to these groups and talk to you about how you can use gold, silver, and self-managed super. We also have Bailey, James, Caroline, and Matt from the Ainslie group, who all serve different roles in the organisation. But what we thought we'd do a little bit differently, rather than just standing and giving you a presentation, is sort of have a little bit of interaction back and forth on it. So I'm going to work as a little bit of a compare moderator, if we think of it like that, as a panel. And if you have questions, I will direct those questions to our panel here as well, because I sort of know what their area of expertise is. So I thought that would be a better way to do it. We're giving it a bit of a trial. We'll still have the presentation and bits that we'll go through for people who are really new to it, but I do recognise some faces here who've seen and listened to us talk before. So it's an opportunity to have introductory information for people who are new to this, but also to get your questions really answered. So as we go through, if there's anything that you have a question about, put your hand up, I'll come and ask you, and we'll try and operate that way and see how we go. Just before we begin, we do have to put the disclaimer up. In this group, and we are also live streaming online, but generally the people I'm speaking to here, I know we all sort of have the same, we're coming sort of from the same backgrounds. So we'll be a little bit looser with this than we often are in other situations if you do have those difficult questions. But at the end of the day, if you're making a financial decision, you do need to get advice. That's the official take on this. So I put it up there. I've met my obligation. Okay, so first of all, we'll ask the question, who is Ainslie? And I thought we might start this off with Bailey, because Bailey, out of the panel here, has actually worked for Ainslie the longest. He's been there, 7 years now. Bailey works in the Treasury, so he's now out the back handing out the medals and organising all of that. Bailey, talk us through, who is Ainslie? What's your perspective?
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes back a little bit, I suppose, to how the
Stand up.
standing up. Yeah, thanks, Carl. Stretch the leg out a little bit. I think it goes out a little bit to the history of the company, a little bit where it actually started. It was just a small family business, and it still is a family business. It's just a much bigger family business now. So there's a few guys, a small shop in Brisbane, Queen Street. Just, I believe they were in produce before, in agriculture, and they moved over to bullion just because they believed in it. And over time, it's grown, passed over through generations. So definitely from when I started, this meeting was of 6 people, and now we have, 30 something across the 2 branches. Yes. Is this fine? I'll get my dulcet tones. So these it's definitely still part of the culture, and I know that sounds a little bit sort of, I sort of roll my eyes a little bit when people talk about that sort of stuff, but definitely from when I started, I think broadly the culture is still definitely the same, and I think that's really important for a place like Ainslie and what we do and the types of customers that we have and the services that we offer in terms of, a lot of it is face-to-face, a lot of it is cash, a lot of it is a conversation, a lot of it is the stuff that we talk about in this room, sort of in a smaller consultation room. So I think that's really important, but to sort of go over a little bit on the actual wall there, from an actual business perspective, what we do is we buy and sell gold and silver and cryptocurrency. That's the meat and potatoes of it. We obviously do things like facilitate storage and transactions for self-managed super funds. And gold sort of standard, and even we're expanding a lot of the range and looking into other things as well too. So that's pretty much the main thing about who we are and what we do. A couple of the other big things to note is that we are the primary distributor for the Perth Mint, so that allows us access to quite a wide range of collectible stuff. So we do cast bars, we do coins, we do vintage bars, and I'm sure we'll explain all the differences between all of those things, but that's pretty much, I think, a very broad overview of who we are and what we do and where we've come from.
Thanks, Bailey. And a really important point there, preempting a question you often get, we will buy back gold and silver that is not our brand. We have our own branded stuff, we have our branded stuff, but we will buy back any gold or silver bullion. We'll talk about what that is in a minute, the difference between other type, like not necessarily gold jewellery and things like that. We'll explain why. But at the end of the day, we buy back any bullion. So when you buy something from us or you bring something, you bought something from somewhere else, we'll buy that back. And that's actually quite important because there are other places, other bullion dealers who will be happy to sell you something, but then won't necessarily be prepared to buy it back from you. So that is an important distinction to make. I'll hand over to Cass now to talk about who Freedom Financial Solutions are, because like I say, they've been working really closely with us, and we find the services they offer really world-class and probably the best way to approach self-managed super in the state. But over to you, Cass.
Thanks, Chris. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Cass Smith. I'm also known as Catherine Smith, if you choose to Google me. So I have been in the financial industry for way too long, trying my best to get out of it, but 30 years in the financial industry as a tax accountant, mortgage broker, real estate agent, property advisor, financial planner. Previously I quit that, and basically help people with their financial life through all of the traditional wealth building programs: property portfolios, share portfolios, superannuation portfolios, business, tax, consulting. When whatever happened over the last 4 years that we all know about, I just threw it all to the wind and went, what a load of crap. What have I done for 30 years of my life talking about all this crap? It doesn't mean anything at all. I then got heavily involved in the freedom movement, the Canberra rallies, the first Canberra rally was about 10 people. The same 10 people every week. Then we grew to 100. And then we threw one on, and my God, 1,000 people turned up. We only had this little phone. We couldn't even broadcast our voices, but then we moved on to obviously the epic one that we all know about. So that was really, really exciting. And what happened was I was standing down from my financial roles because I just didn't believe in it anymore. And then all of a sudden I stood on stage and gave my story, which I won't go into tonight, about why I'm standing up. And it is for my children, one of whom's down the back wall there. And but basically I wanted to protect them from what was coming. And just quickly, one of my sons plays professional football in the first grade and on the TV and all that exciting stuff, and I knew that he was going to be forced. There was nothing I could do to protect him, so I stood up trying to do everything I could. Just as I left the stage one day, I just said, and by the way, get your super out of the system before it crashes. And then I walked off stage, and then all of a sudden there's hundreds of people going, what do you mean, what do you mean, what do you mean? So even though I was trying to retire, our business all of a sudden grew by 2,000% in a matter of weeks. Because all people like you went, hang on a sec, what do you mean? Your super is in the share market. What do you mean it's controlled by BlackRock and Vanguard? What do you mean by you can get it out and put it in gold and silver? And so ever since then, we set up Freedom Financial Solutions. It is a new business established about 2021 when all of that was going on. But I have been, my previous company, Holistic Financial Solutions, has been around for 25 years. So that's where the background comes from. Freedom Financial Solutions is entirely for the freedom movement. So what we love, and Chris mentioned it earlier, we get to speak to people like you all day, every day. All of my client consults, everybody I speak to are like-minded people, so I actually get to talk down to earth with people like you about what we're coming to. Where is this financial world going? And I'm sure we'll talk about it tonight. But in my opinion, we are heading for a complete disaster, and one of the best ways to protect it is gold and silver. And now you know, so the brochure's on your chair. You can get your super out of all the big systems, out of corporate super, get it into gold and silver. That's my main message tonight.
Thanks, Cass. And we'll come back around and talk a lot more about specifically the services that are offered there. This is really important. How we sort of structure this when we're thinking about it is we changed how we do this a little bit when we've done this presentation in the past. Now we go, let's start off with what the actual problem is that we're trying to solve. So this slide here really just highlights a few things that have been going on. I mean, Cass alluded to a few. We all understand some of this has happened, that we had the GFC really was the start of a whole series of events that happened after it, right through to COVID. All of these things that happened have resulted in a lot more money entering the system. And that's something that I'm really passionate about because I'm the chief economist at Ainslie. So all I'm looking at all the time is how much more money is flowing in. It's effectively debasing the money that we already, or the currency that we already have, the fiat dollars in our pocket. So it's a really important point to discuss. We've had, I think there's a couple of points there. The easiest, the biggest asset bubbles that we've ever seen, more money created in 1 year than the previous 100 years. It just goes on and on, right? So there's lots of stuff that's quite scary. But I actually really love doing it through this particular slide set that talks about the US. So it is talking about US debt. But when you look at these numbers, they're just really big numbers. And how I like to describe it, they're so big that we go, oh, that's terrible, but we don't actually know what it means. So how we like to look at it is we actually like to chop the zeros off the end and pretend that this is a household budget. So it's the same numbers, we just chop the zeros off. So if you think of it like an annual family income of $49,330, you get how I've done that. Right? That's the money coming in if you think about the US, but that's the tax revenue. Then you think about the spending. So the family is earning $49,330, they're spending $69,930. They're already not in a great situation. We can all do that math. Then we go, they've not only done that, they've added some new debt to the credit card. Right? So they've added another 20 grand on top to the credit card. And we already had a little bit of debt. $356,000 of debt already on the credit card. So when you look at these numbers and you can actually think of it in normal people terms, it makes a whole lot more sense, I think. And you can see that's really an unsustainable situation. You can't survive as an individual earning $50,000 a year when you've got all of that debt and it just increasing by the year, and you certainly can't survive that way as a country. Countries can do clever things like just bring more money, but we'll get to that in a minute. So we say that's the US, but it's not just the US, and we all know this. We all know that's also the case in Australia. And this is just sort of showing that situation. We're also on this trajectory where it's just up and to the right, more and more debt. Okay, so that's fairly important to understand. Cass talks about this a little bit specifically. She's a little bit feistier than we are in her predictions about what's going to happen next. I'm actually going to hand over to you to talk about that, Cass, because you really have a fairly strong opinion that things could get pretty bad from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And who here agrees that we might be heading for a bit of financial disaster? So we all remember the GFC. Australia survived through that quite well. I was in the industry as a mortgage broker at the time, and we managed to pull through quite okay. The US didn't, but we did. Then came COVID, and I was always astounded. I was sitting in my office at the time. Of course, we were in lockdown. I wasn't meant to be in my office, but I went there anyway. And the share market crashed by about 40% in a matter of days. A lot of people didn't. Who knew that? Yeah, a few people, but not many, because it didn't last for long. But when it crashed by 40%, I was sitting in my office going, oh my God, is this the start of the end? And then a few weeks later, the market had rebounded. And then the market has been going higher, share market I'm talking about, higher and higher and higher and higher and higher ever since. And I kept saying to myself, this doesn't make any sense. Why are the share markets rebounding to all-time highs? And there was only one answer, and we talk about that a lot with the money printing and the inflation, is that government's printing and printing and printing lots of money. So who here got the $7.50 a week COVID supplement? Who businesses got massive COVID supplements? I always tell an example, my daughter's in the crowd, but I always use this example, Kiana, it's not just because you're here. She was working $70 a week on a Saturday, dog grooming. That's all she got, $70 a week. Then all of a sudden COVID came, she's now on $750 a week for doing nothing. She bought her first car for $6,000-7,000 a few months later. So what does that mean? In reality, when the governments are printing, and the Australian government printed $1 trillion and put it in everybody's pocket, all of a sudden you're spending money at the companies, you're going and buying things, you're upgrading your homes, getting a new car. That then puts money into the companies, and the share market looks like everything is going well. Does it really mean things are going well? Anyone? Or does it mean it's a complete illusion based on money printing that the government is pumping into the system? Building houses, building new suburbs, making new cars. People are just spending money because everybody felt rich, because everybody was getting all this money. But is that the long-term solution? I propose that absolutely no, it is not. So I've been saying for 3 years, I feel like I'm a repeating record, that we're heading for the biggest disaster in human history. And I've got up there 80 to 90%. That's not coming from me, that's coming from experts around the world. Have a look at Robert Kiyosaki, Jim Rickards, who was an advisor to the Pentagon. They are saying that we are heading for an 80 to 90% crash on the share market anytime soon. It's normally preceded by wars. So when the Russia and Ukraine war broke out, I went, here we go. Here we are 3 years later. When the Israel and Hamas war broke out, I went, here we go. But we're still here. But who agrees that every single day when you turn on the news, we are one step closer to something really major happening out there? Not to scare anyone, but a lot of people have got some dates throwing around about this coming weekend and the 11th of November. So what happens in a crash? The share market can crash very, very quickly, up to 50% in the GFC, 40% when COVID hit. We're predicting an 80 to 90% crash. What does that mean to you? If your money is in the share market, and a lot of you will be here going, well, I don't own shares, I don't care. But who here has got superannuation? And who here knows that that's all in the share market? Most people didn't know until the GFC. Now, what do you mean I've lost half my super? So your money in superannuation is in the share market unless you have deliberately chosen to take it out of the share market. So, as I said, since the COVID pandemic, I have been running Freedom Financial Solutions, where we are predominantly helping people get their money out of the share market into self-managed super funds, which I have been accounting for 25 years, I think it is, since 1999. Previously, my clients did property. What 95% of my clients are doing now is gold and silver, which is why we have partnered up with Ainslie in the way we are. The important thing to know about the share market crashing is that once it starts crashing, it's too late. So there's no point going, oh yeah, but it's got good gains, I get dividends and da. Because when this crash happens, it can happen in a matter of days, and they can freeze the share market. Who here remembers when the Twin Towers, the planes hit the buildings? I knew there'd be an almighty crash. I was only in my 20s, but I just went, yeah, there's going to be a crash on the share market, I'm going to buy shares. As soon as the market opened up, what did they do? They closed the market for 3 or 4 days until stability returned. So when a crash happens, they can literally close the market. It's too late for you to sell out when they've closed the market. What else can they close? Anyone heard of anyone having their bank accounts frozen? Yeah. We all know people, and I get scared very, very often about my own bank accounts. I'm always keeping them very, very low. And we all know of people that have had their bank accounts frozen. A lot of you may not know that there's something called, we call it the Bail-in Act. Who's heard of that? So the Bail-in Act has a really, really long technical term we don't normally have on there, but I can't read it all. Financial legislation, financial bills sector, blah, blah, blah. I've got it if anyone wants it, but you can link to the legislation and you can read it. And what it is, passed in 2017, that they can freeze your bank accounts and take all your money out of your bank accounts and convert it into shares in the bank. And if the share market is crashing, how much are those shares worth? And can you sell them? And if you're lucky, you may get your money back some way far down the future, and we'll talk about inflation, when that money will be absolutely worthless. That legislation was passed in Australia. So your bank accounts are not even safe. So when people come to me, remember I said earlier, for 30 years, I've given all sorts of financial advice, how to build wealth, how to build business, how to build property portfolios, etc. People come to me now and say, Cass, why do you only have 15-minute appointments? I used to have 2-hour appointments, all-day appointments, and then I'd go away and write you a 200-page plan. The 15-minute appointments, because I've only got one thing to say. Get your money out of super, get your money out of the bank and get it in the golden door. And one thing I have to lay down right up the front is that I don't take any commission. I've refused to right from the beginning. There have been gold dealers that have come to me and said, Cass, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. And I've just said no. Because the moment I'm taking a kickback, I'm no longer unbiased, I'm no longer independent. I don't want your money. I am saying go into hand on that, because that's what I am putting money into. My lovely daughter down there has put all her money into it under my advice. So has my son. And I recommend it because I believe in it. And we need to do it before the crash, which is getting closer and closer by the day. If anyone wants more help, our brochures are there. Mary Jane in my office is great. She does free one-on-one consults. You can talk to her about your situation and get your finances sorted.
Thanks, Dave. Now, inflation. James, I'm going to throw you on this. This is really challenging for James because he doesn't know about this slide yet, and I'm just throwing into him. But I know it's an area that he knows about and talks about all the time. What are some of the conversations that you have with customers? Like, do these things come up? Do people come to you and talk to you about Zimbabwe? Do they come and talk to you about Venezuela? What are the conversations that you have?
Some people do. Some people will know their financial history. So we go back in time. Germany in the 20s, a lot of people will know because it's a significant period for wealth history. But people feel it now. Okay, they understand what's happening right now. So this helps to, I guess, weave together that story, that it's not something that's a new phenomenon. It's been going on for a really long time. We can see, in Germany, we can see the outcomes that it can bring. And it really resonates with people because they live it every day.
And following up from that, this is a really interesting slide, right? Because there's numbers here that show that it is something that's happening around the world right now. So you've got Argentina sitting up here with an inflation rate of 209%. Right? That's mind-boggling how large that number is. What people don't understand is this one. Who feels like they're living at 3.8% inflation rate in Australia right now? Feels a little low. It's actually not. It is actually quite accurate. The government might lie to you about many things, but they're actually not lying to you about that particular number. It just comes down to how you construct it. This is my favourite, one of my favourite charts. All the charts are my favourite. I'm an economist, of course they're all my favourite. But this particular one is really interesting because this goes back to 1975 and we're looking at global liquidity, which you can think of as just how much money there is in the world. And it just keeps going up and up and up, and it's become more exponential since 2008, which was the financial crisis. We're just like off into the moon. But this dotted line down here is CPI inflation. It is kind of correct. So that 3.8% number is kind of correct because it's only measuring a very small basket of goods. What it's not measuring is the gap between there and the inflation, the liquidity up the top, which is asset price inflation. This is a really important point. The CPI doesn't include the fact that your house has gone up in value. Okay, it doesn't include all these other assets that you still have to spend money on to live. It just says, oh, we're only going to look at a small subset of food and other things that generally have stayed pretty stable. And they adjusted, like they changed the definition of what makes up that basket over time as well. Now, what that is actually the wealth divide. Because who are the people who are earning wages and have to survive off the wages that are only going up with CPI inflation? Everyone else. Who are the people who are holding all the assets? That's your 1%. That's the rich. That's why the rich get richer, the poor middle class struggle. That's that sort of Club CSI view of the world. What's really interesting, and I don't want to skip to the solution, even though Cass has given us some hints of what she thinks the solution is. Crypto and gold, and this really, crypto didn't exist for a lot of this chart. They just added crypto onto the end from where it did exist. Has kept up with that remarkably well over a long period of time. And that's really a big part of what we'll be talking about. So what is the solution? You probably guessed. Put it in gold colour, so give it a hint. Obviously, we think it's to do with gold and silver, right? Specifically, we're going to talk about a type of gold and silver that is gold and silver bullion. We'll get Bailey to pull out some of those samples that he's got here. Bullion is specific, and remember at the start I said it's not your gold jewellery that you're wearing. Caroline, I'm going to ask you about this. Do you want to just step us through? I'll give you that's because I'm too focused on the metal. I'll give you a kilo bar. Do you want to just talk us through what makes this bullion?
Yes, okay. So, what differentiates this as bullion is that it is stamped. It has a purity rating. So this one is 9995. So it's got a 395 rating.
So silver has to go to 99.9%. So that 395 means that after the third decimal doesn't matter, but that same purity has to be that to be considered bullion. Gold has to be 99.99.
Yes, gold has to be 495. It has to have its weight printed on it. And yes, as I said before, it's marked. So this bar is an Ainslie bar. It's our own proprietary brand with our sleeve. So.
Thank you. So that's what makes something bullion. Now, there's something really important about understanding what makes something bullion, and that is that when it is considered bullion, it is GST free. Very important piece of information. So when you sell back to us something that is not pure, that is not 99.9% if it's silver or 4.9 if it's gold, then it attracts GST because it's got some sort of something else going on there. It's like a service, they consider it, if it's not pure. But bullion itself is protected under the Constitution, actually, so it's protected as something that can't have GST attached to it. So that's a really important distinction to make, okay? When we're talking about investing and trying to get maximum value from here. Some bullion fundamentals. I mean, James, you would talk about this a lot with people. You know, there's a few things there. Maybe just, what are your top 3 things that make bullion special to you?
Top 3, without looking, I might go off the cuff. I'm personally a fan of supply and demand economics. Okay, so why is there demand for gold? Primarily, it's a monetary metal, so it's been valued as money for thousands of years, and there's not heaps of it. We keep finding it because there is demand. People spend money to rip it up out of the earth, but eventually it's got a finite supply. So if there's increasing demand and a finite supply, price has only got one way to go. I really like that. That's supply and demand 101. And the same goes for silver. Not so much a monetary metal, much more used in industry, but being used much more in industry, in a lot of electronics, in a lot of batteries, in a lot of renewable technologies. And there's a supply shortage at the moment, so that works in our favour as well. So that's the first one, being outside of the state, being money independent of the state that you can hold in your hand at home to protect yourself against issues Cass has been mentioning, is really special to me. The third one, I might look for some inspiration. I've talked about a bit of that, haven't I? You can help me if you like, Matt. This is Matt.
Matt, what's your name?
Which might come back to a point later on, which may involve some of the discussion points I might bring up. But the energy that it took to make, do you want to hold that? Thanks. The energy that it took to make that, to stamp it, to refine it, to dig it out of the ground, it required oil, required manpower, required intellectual power. All that energy has been stored and will be forever stored in this bar or a gold bar. So when you convert a depreciating currency into stored value, stored energy, you can deploy that later on in the future knowing that that value has been maintained. So for me, one of the most important parts of gold and silver is protecting your wealth, yes, but protecting your purchasing power, yes. But as time goes on, you can deploy that whenever you wish because you've kept that energy. It never loses that energy. It's all been put into this at the start. So this might get revisited a little bit later on with some other discussion points, but that's my favourite, is that the energy it took always travels with it.
Wonderful, thank you. We also deal with crypto, and this is a topic that I know a lot of people are interested in. Sometimes it's actually really interesting from my perspective. When we were doing these presentations probably well over a year ago now, we'd have sort of some eye rolls at the start of the crypto bit, and then progressively as we went along, more and more people wanted to know about it. Matt is heavily involved in our crypto department. He's sort of running that often. If you purchase crypto through us, you'll often end up in a direct conversation with Matt about it. I'll actually go, I think it's the next slide on this, just to talk a little bit about, Matt's got that wall here. I'll hand over to you to talk about that. But what I just wanted to point out from my perspective is crypto is rightfully a scary area for a lot of people because it's new, they don't understand, there's risks. Matt is forever dealing with scammers, like people who are at risk of being scammed or have been scammed and trying to deal with it. It's difficult. So one of our main proposition, our USPs for Ainslie is that we can take all the complexity out of that by having someone like Matt on the other end of the line or sitting across from you if you're coming into the office to help you deal with that, to still get exposed to something that's pretty exciting. So Matt, do you want to maybe just talk us through this, particularly this wallet, like what it means to have crypto on Ainslie versus what people might not, like other forms that people might be going online or, you know, the scam aspect, or just sort of talk us through why they might want to speak to you or do it that way.
Okay, well, I'll start with what this is. So this is a paper wallet. There's many different forms of wallets. A wallet is a place to put your crypto. It's very important to understand how to keep this very safe. On this right-hand side, you'll see what's called a public key. Now, what a public key is, well, you could share that with everyone in the world. If they wanted to send you crypto, happy days, not a problem. What's on this side is what's called your private key, or a private seed, or private phrases. There's many ways of describing it. This is the moving side. If someone ever gets hold of that, whether it be just a snapshot going past with a camera or scanning over the internet saying, oh, look, we can do this, just send us a private key and we'll sort it out for you, we'll double your money. Never. You never, ever give out that side. That's the moving side. And we'll move it from this one and move it to theirs and it's gone forever. So it can be quite scary, but there are ways that we can make that process a lot easier for you. We have storage solutions, we take the risk for you, we get all that sorted in the back end, you don't have to worry about it. Which brings you to, that side, your private key. Never ever give it out, we never give it out. This is offline, this is cold, it's never connected to the internet. With Ainslie and our storage solution, we actually have that private key separated. put down the reserve vault where indeed we keep our gold and silver, we keep our customers' gold and silver, and other customers in crypto. We keep that there. So it is scary, but when you start to understand it and you understand where the risks are, we can mitigate those. There's never no risk, but we mitigate as much as possible for you. A hot wallet, as it says, it's something that's connected to the internet. It has all the activity going. There are vectors that can come in from the side and attack that wallet and then take it. You would have heard of maybe some particular exchanges being hacked and funds being taken and so forth. That's a hot wallet situation. That's a trading wallet. That's something that we don't do.
And it's such an important point. You can actually walk out, like you can walk out with that silver bar. You can walk out with crypto in something physical. But that is actually a bit unique as well, because a lot of other, when you're thinking about crypto, it's often, it's on your phone or it's in places that you're not necessarily comfortable with the security of, whereas you can secure this yourself and have comfort in that. So, important point there, Cass.
I just wanted to quickly add to that I'm not an expert on crypto and I don't want to be. It's one thing I don't want to learn about, but it is something that I had a fear of missing out because it does seem to be doing very well and a lot of people make a lot of money. So I did get involved with it, but what I'd say to people is there are so many scammers out there. 99% of the people you deal with are just trying to scam your money. So when I decided to do some crypto, I just went straight to Ainslie and said, do it for me. And that's what I encourage my clients to do as well.
Yeah, you have the benefit of face-to-face with us. So we can walk you through the process. If you come in, we talk, it's not quite for you just there and then, that's fine. We're there for you in the future. That's not a problem.
And remember, I did want to make this interactive as well, so if you do have questions, feel free at any stage to raise your hand on that. Otherwise, I'll just assume that you're answering them as we go. You're doing an excellent job. Bailey, I'll now hand over to you for this because he actually runs our treasury, so he's out the back all the time dealing with this, the different types of bars we have. From what I said before, all that really matters when you're investing in gold and silver is that you're dealing with bullion. This side of it, what type of bullion you get, comes a lot more down to personal preference, but there are some differences. So Bailey, send us through those.
Yeah, so as they were saying, the obviously bullion is the most important part because it's not subject to GST. So obviously we don't want to give any more money away to, especially the government, than we have to. So you have different types of bullion, and type of bullion is kind of weird because how do you have a type of a classification? But it really just comes down to how the bar is finished. So your typical, what people think of when they think of bullion is a pass bar. So you can see it up there. Chris has got one here. It's the minimum you need it to be bullion. It has the weight, the brand, and the purity stamp on the bar. It's poured into a mold, and off you go. Generally, they're your cheapest because of everything I've just said. They're your closest to spot price because the production cost is lower.
Okay, Bailey, how much is it looks like a little Cadbury square chocolate. Tiny, that's 1 ounce. How much is that?
I mean, I haven't looked as
4,107.
1 ounce gold, about 4,060 something Aussie, I think that's right. Oh, that's it.
He's the one checking the price there, back, so you want to buy from him.
That's not my money. So your cast bars typically they're closer to spot. So obviously based on that explanation, everyone's somewhat familiar with the price and structure. We have spot price, which a bunch of global markets get together and they sort of aggregate out a price. That's your spot price. Pretty much every dealer will charge a percentage above encompassing the cost and their product and their profit margin, and then they'll typically buy back below that spot price, and then that's that cycle in and out. Yep.
Just let people know the difference between a troy ounce and a normal ounce.
Yeah. We actually that's actually really good. We do get that question a lot. So whenever you talk in bullion, which goes back to the old Roman times, we use a troy ounce, which is 31.1 grams. So we often get people who will come in and they'll say, oh, it's an ounce, but it didn't weigh correct when I went home. They're using, I don't know what you call it, ounce. Just the other ounce, kitchen scale ounce, yeah. So it's 30 imperial ounce. So ours is 31.1 and then it's 32.15 ounces to a kilo. So there's a lot of really annoying calculations that go on out the back because we do both kilo sizes and aggregates of that and troy ounce sizes, so we have to do it. It's quite annoying actually. Wish we could just standardise that. But then moving on, we have the minted bars. So pretty much.
It's the same. Doesn't look like it. It looks like bigger, but exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. So the three that we have here to show, they're all 1 ounce. They're all 1 troy ounce, but they all look slightly different, but they all weigh out to exactly the same. So that's what I was going to lead into here is the minted bar here. So this one here, I realise people at the back can't necessarily see, but we can have a chat afterwards. But exactly the same amount of gold in this, but it comes in a really nice packet, and the finish, the minting on the end, where they sort of slam it into this press, that doesn't change the value of the gold within it, but it does change the value that you pay, because you pay a little bit more for that finish. Yep.
If somebody offered you that ounce,
yep.
for an equivalent amount in crypto, which one would you personally take?
Oh. Repeat the question. Repeat the question, please.
See, I know. This is a really interesting question.
This is an interesting question because I know the true answer to this. But I don't know if he's going to tell you the true answer to this in his Treasury Manager role tonight.
Please repeat the question.
The question was, if someone offered me 1 ounce of gold bar right now, or the equivalent in crypto, if the crypto was Bitcoin, I would choose Bitcoin right now. Because I have time, guys. I have time on my side. I can take the risk. But anyway, all that aside, I'll press on. So minted bar, really the difference is the finish. It looks a bit nicer. So that's pretty much it. What that comes down to is just personal preference, as Chris was saying. To move on to the coins, this one, a coin is its own classification. So a lot of your coins you get will carry GST because a lot of coins are collectible coins. But if it has the weight of the brand and the purity on it, there's no GST. So there is a funny workaround with a coin. So all something needs to have to be considered a coin is it just has to be legal tender. That's all it needs to be considered a coin. So what you get away with bullion coins is you can get a nice, beautiful, collectible coin that was minted with a year and a date and all that on it. But if it's got a weight and a brand and a purity on it, you won't have to pay GST on that coin. So that's really good for collectors. It comes with the same situation as the minted bars. You are obviously going to pay a little bit more for that. So if you're purely in it for just purely investment purposes, you'd stay away from minted bars and coins. The other side of that, though, is people go, it's gold and silver. You're probably going to be holding on to it for decades. What's the extra slight margin to have something that's nicer? Both are wrong, both are right, depending on where you come from. But you're going to get that closer to spot price if you just get a cast bar. Because the thing to know about bullion dealers is we do not care, to put it really bluntly, we do not care that it is a beautiful 1 ounce proof, amazing finish snake. You're going to get the exact same for that when you bring it back than you are a cast bar. Maybe different on the private market, but to a bullion dealer, we don't differentiate.
So, is it always better to buy gold for it?
Well, I'm going to answer that question in just a moment. If you're talking about gold or silver.
Gold, and that's what we do, right? Gold is one of the most liquid assets you will have aside from cash. Truly, we every day today we have a lot of people, as I mentioned at the start, probably crossed over a few things at the start, but we buy back as well as we sell, and that's something that's very important to us, myself as well. Yeah.
What percent do you pay to buy? Is it a higher percent?
Yeah, sure. So for gold, it somewhat varies when I sell it to you because of all those costs, but for gold it's around about 2% above spot. We buy back about 2% below spot. Silver varies a lot, because from 1 ounce up to a 5 kilo bar, like the 1 ounce silver coins, just to be honest with you, they can get up there, 10-12%, but they're not as good for investment in terms of, if you're just looking to make that close to spot. I think it's about 3 or 4% below for silver. Around about 2%, depending on what you get. It's about 2% below. So it's about a 4% spread. We call it a spread. So it's about roughly 4%. Now that can be bigger if you get a a fractional gold coin, so like a 1/10 of an ounce gold coin, because we have to ship that from Perth. It costs a little bit more to create that smaller stuff. They have to put a stamp on it. I take a salary, so there's all that stuff that has to go into that. So typically, which was my next point, when it comes to buying it, you have you're buying gold with all the different options that you have. And so you can sort of go, oh, there's a lot of different coins, a lot of different bar sizes, what's best for me? Ultimately, it is personal preference, which is a bit of a cop-out, but basically, the bigger the bar you go, so if you're buying a 1 kilo gold bar versus 32 1 ounce gold bars, you're going to pay closer to spot for the 1 kilo bar than you are the 1 ounce gold bar, because creating a 1 kilo bar is much more cost efficient. So if you're looking to save money or pay less, you want to buy bigger cast bars. If you're looking for liquidity, so we've seen the gold price and the silver price do quite a bit of a run, particularly in the last few weeks. If you buy a 1 kilo bar, that's well over $100,000, over $110,000 now in spot price. When the time comes to sell, if you just want to buy a used car for a few grand, and you've only invested in kilo bars, you can't cut it in half. Because if you cut that bar in half, you don't have a bullion. It's not like brand purity on that. So it's really, every person is individual, which is why we can't give you all encompassing financial advice. So every person's situation is different. The trade-off is cost versus liquidity. That's pretty much what it should come down for every person looking to buy gold. I mean, if you want the collectible stuff and the coins and all that's great. But if you're purely in it for investment, and particularly self-managed super funds, if I was giving financial advice, which I'm not, I would definitely encourage people to look at past bars, and depending on how much they're looking to invest and where they're storing it, the bigger you go, the better it is. Because as we said, we buy it all back at the same rate, so you're going to try and want to get as close as you can to that spot price when we sell it to you. So pretty much everything else is just, there's nothing wrong with owning a few, shiny 1 ounce silver coins, but for investment, which is, I think, what, the main part of this talk is, that's what I'd be recommending if I was.
So that is something as a self-managed super fund advisor that we get common questions on, and we will often sit with a client and say, okay, will it depend on your age, when you're looking to access it? So someone really young that's putting it away for 30 years, they may as well buy the big bars. Someone in retirement that may be wanting to access it every month, buy the smaller bars. But that is a really common thing that we get asked, and we're happy to talk each client through their own circumstances. We do hold a free Q&A session, and there is one on tomorrow. Mary Jane will kill me because I don't know. It's either at lunchtime or at 6:30. It's all on our website, Freedom FFS. We have the free Q&A. Clients just log on and ask us these sort of questions. Not financial advice, just our personal opinions on.
Can you answer that question too about coins and super?
So coins and super are absolutely fine when they're the coins that you're talking about, that have the weight and purity on there. It's the collectible coins that might be, say, a rare ancient one from somewhere that's been buried somewhere. That's a collectible. You can still do it in super, it just gets more complicated. I really encourage clients just to buy the very simple, straight bullion bars, these coins, all the allocated and unallocated, which no doubt we'll talk about.
Absolutely, thank you for that. I'll only add one extra point on these coins, and this is a story I have not checked myself, but makes a bit of sense. What makes it a coin is something else that I think was mentioned, but it has the sovereign's head on the back to make it legal tender. So coins are actually legal tender, and they have a value on them. So this one has $100 on it. Now, how much does that say it was worth? 4,100. So add another 4,000. Now, obviously, if you took that to a bank, they'd say, yes, I'll give you $100 for it. They're legally required to do that. But someone has actually played a reverse card on that one and taken a whole lot of these through the airport and said, oh, they're only worth $100, so I'm under my $10,000 limit. Now, I'm not recommending that because I don't know how that went for that person, but they reckon they got through it. So there's an interesting little side note there where something being valued at face value as legal tender is potentially a nice little trick people could use. Yes?
I can actually verify that does work.
It does work?
I used to work for Gold Refinery. I used to travel all the time about 40 cruise. Never got a chance to show them. And he said they were $100 each. And every single time.
Well, and the response the guy used actually was, or at least what he said he used, was Well, you can go speak to your boss because he's the one who decided that's worth $100. So, yeah, there's something in that little extra bonus for coins potentially, and it's good to hear that that has been confirmed because it's a good story regardless. We talked about this, obviously, we mentioned all that before. Think about the size. My only extra little bit of advice that I would add onto that was that a lot of people buy a mixture, probably to answer your question about wanting, you want to sell some of it, you don't want to sell all of it. That way you can get the mix right. So you've got some big stuff that's cheaper per ounce, you've got some small stuff that you can access easily to be able to sell off when you need to do that. We do have a number of people, I would consider myself one of these people, that holds a considerable amount of their spare cash in bullion, and I only sell what I need to. Because it's going up in value and the dollars in my pocket are going down in value as we highlighted before through inflation. Silver's a really interesting one here, and I'm probably going to go to you on this, Matt, because I think this is something I know we've all been really interested in the Ainslie office at the moment. The gold-silver ratio is just, well, Matt can explain what it is specifically, but people ask the question, which one should I buy? Should I buy gold or should I buy silver? And it's obviously a personal decision of which one you would prefer. Gold is a lot bigger, bulkier to store. Silver is a lot bigger, bulkier to store. Gold, you can have a small amount holding a lot of value in your pocket. But this ratio is probably something that's really important to understand.
Yeah, so this plays into your strategy, and your strategy could involve, as previously mentioned, divisibility, stage of life, that makes up whether you're going a gold strategy, silver strategy, strictly, or a portion thereof. So what is the gold and silver ratio? So the gold and silver ratio is how many ounces of silver does it take to get to 1 ounce of gold? And this, coming out of the ground, as God's given earth, it's at a ratio of about 7 to 1. Throughout history, the ratio is about 16 to 1. Why is that? Well, silver has a carry cost because it's bulky. There's extra expense put onto that. So, as Bailey mentioned before, the silver spreads are slightly larger and over and under what potentially gold is. Well, there's storage costs, there's carry costs, there's moving costs. That's why there's those things get into the price. So historically, going back to, I'm not going to say Socrates or Socrates or whatever, but it's 16 to 1. That was established about, I think, in Roman times or something similar. But through paper contracts that they can print off like a Xerox machine through the COMEX in the US and other markets, but particularly through the COMEX, they can create contracts which represent silver. And that's not actual silver, but it represents a contract on silver, a future contract on silver. And they've printed that ad nauseum, and I think through COVID we hit 124 ounces of silver to 1 gold, which is completely off the chart and ridiculous. Typically, through times, you'll find 80 is a top. Generally, that's about where it tops out, 81. And it might fluctuate down to somewhere around that, let it go to say maybe 30 or 40, somewhere there. So it takes 40 of silver to get to 1, or it takes 80. So the silver ratio play is when the ratio is high. So when it takes 80 silver pieces to get 1 ounce of gold, at that time, typically you would consider, again, not financial advice, you would consider moving your gold holdings into silver, because you get a lot more bang for your buck, you get a lot more silver coins. You would then wait. Now this strategy could be a long-term strategy. It might be something that goes for 10 years, as far as a bull-bear cycle or a liquidity cycle. So what you'll find is that as that ratio starts to tick down, and I notice over the last few days, it's come down from somewhere around that 84, 85, it's now sitting at 80. So it may be silver's starting to wake up, and as that price goes up, the ratio goes up faster than gold, that ratio starts to tick down. You can go into our website and you can follow that every day if you want. It's just homepage, GSR, gold silver ratio up the top hand right, it's on the right hand side. Follow it, I do. And as that ratio starts to come down and you start getting typical averages of 40 or 30, I think the GFC hit 14 intraday, I think similar to that. Those would be moments that you go, wow, I've got all this massive amount of silver. Now is the time, it's only taking 14 of them to get that 1 ounce of gold. I'm going to slide my silver across into gold. And then you hold that for another 10 years, the ratio goes back up to 80, you double this stack, move it across, back into silver at 80, follow it, come back down to 40 or 30 or 20, double your stack again. So it's a long-term strategy. It's something you can teach your kids, and I implore you to please, this is information that they're the ones that are going to benefit from everything we're doing now. The fighting for freedom, standing up, being a voice, they're the ones that are going to benefit. So teach them about money. Teach them what money is, teach them what money isn't. Money isn't what's in your pocket with the notes. Money is something like gold, which has been there for 5,000 years. So I understand the difference and teach it to your kids, because they need to know. And this is a strategy. It's not that hard. You can follow it every day on our website. If you so to answer your question, do I buy gold, do I buy silver? Again, it's at your stage of life. Gold has probably got more of a footprint in the wealth preservation house, so to speak, whereas silver's got its foot more so in the house next door, which is more of a speculative, because of the, as James mentioned before, with regards to supply and demand. But it's also kind of got its foot in the wealth preservation as well. So at these times, especially when the gold and silver ratio is so high, at 80, you might sort of want to focus that there's an opportunity on the speculation side that silver is going to, gold is obviously pushed down the door and silver is starting to run through on horses. You might want to consider a slightly higher weighting in the silver, a little bit of gold, because when things go crashing down, there may be some revaluation things that pop out, we don't know for sure. But if you've got a little bit of your footprint in that house, which is your wealth preservation, you've got a little bit of a footprint in the speculation, which is silver, and it's also got a little bit of footprint in the wealth preservation, I think you're pretty covered. And then you just look at this, and it's telling us silver is a swing buy. It's probably the most undervalued asset on the planet. So have some exposure, not financial advice, just a strategy to consider where your plan is. It's a long-term strategy that does work.
What you said, like, so the government is getting them now.
Sorry?
The government.
The government.
That's the anti-government word we use
Okay,
around here.
I'm getting there. This is a learning thing for me too. No, I did March, but I didn't hear that one.
So if they can go back now,
Yep.
what stops them getting into the bonds? Because if we transfer silver and gold and silver, it's travel.
Yeah, I'll pass that one on, but I also want to know that bail-ins have actually happened in Australia in the 1800s, where people realised it might happen in Houston, Victoria. Yeah.
3/4 of the room.
Yeah, back in the 1800s, it's already actually happened. So even in a certain form, it's already bail-ins. So anyway, I'll say that.
Yes, definitely. From a self-managed super fund perspective, if you buy gold and silver, it is all trackable, because in a self-managed super fund, we have to account every year what your wealth is invested in. The government will know you've got the gold and silver. There's no point doing the 5,000 untraceable transactions in SMSF. Having said that, and this is live stream, but it's not recorded, so I can say whatever I want. If the world falls to pieces, which I believe is going to happen, and you have that gold and silver, something a lot of people don't know, and your accountants probably don't tell you, or they may tell you the wrong information, you can have that gold and silver at home, buried in your backyard, in a safe, wherever you want it. So to answer your question, how are they going to get it? If the world falls apart, yes, they know you've got it. They come knocking on your door. What are you going to say? Yeah, sure, here it is. No. You'll say, I don't know. I traded it, I swapped it for a horse, I lost it, I've got a bit of early dementia, I don't know where it's gone. You put it in your backpack and hop on your bike and go on the road. So being a physical asset means they can't get it. It's the only thing they can't get. Digital asset, they can just swipe into your bank account, swipe into your share portfolio, swipe into your super account. But once you've got it out of that, in physical gold and silver and hidden, either in your backyard or in a safe or in a vault. They don't know you've got that vault. If the government wanted to confiscate gold and silver, Chris mentions this as well, they would go to Perth Mint and swipe it all. Can you imagine the resources they'd have to put into coming and knocking on each and one of your doors and saying, where's your gold and silver? And getting their guys to start digging up your backyard? They're not going to do it. Yeah, there's been a few things, and all I say to that is don't get involved in the politics, because a lot of that, I think they were deliberately trying to scare people off gold and silver by carrying on about the, oh, there's this big blah, 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 blah. Having said that, I don't recommend bullion, sorry, on live stream. I used to, because for my New South Wales clients, Sydney was the easiest place to get it. But I now say just build Ainslie, even if you have to drive to Brisbane or fly to Brisbane or Melbourne, or get it posted. And flying through an airport with gold and silver is a lot of fun. You know that? Oh, I've had so much fun. I just had walking along with carry cases of silver and they put it through. And I've had Gold Coast Airport. And they're like, they say to me, have you got heavy metal with you? And I'm like, I'm whispering, I've got gold and silver. And the security guy goes, gold and silver in here! So what the tip is, if you're going through the airport, and I do this now, as soon as it's going through that little scanner, it comes out on the other side, just say straight to the person, can I see the manager? And I want a private room. And just insist upon that. They'll go, oh, no, I want a private room. I'm legally entitled to a private room, take me to a private room. Then they'll take you in a private room, they'll have a look at it, I get my phone out and I record it so that their little hands can't grab anything, and I just make sure, and they just have a look at it and go, okay, yeah, great, and they go through. But don't let the people who just pull your bag through automatically open it and search it.
We absolutely do. I won't speak ill of the competition, but some of your concerns are related.
Can you repeat the question, please?
It was if we were to buy back an ABC bullion bar, would we treat it the same as an Ainslie bar? We absolutely do, because what we do with everything that we buy back is we test it. So we know the purity with very sophisticated equipment that will tell us the purity of that bar. Just to one other part, the Perth Mint aspect of that. Some of you might have seen the Four Corners, what was the Four Corners? It was 7:30 report? I can't remember what it was. But there was an ABC sort of hit job really on the Perth Mint, and what it was about was ultimately there were some bikies going in there, buying bullion, not getting the proper KYC procedures, so they were laundering money through that. And there was also, so that was one part of it, and then they were also combining that with another part where they were selling bullion bars to China, I believe it was, and in China, the specific bars they were after needed it was either the fourth or fifth decimal. So remember before we said bullion in Australia is 99.99. So whatever they needed, it was something like it needed to be 99.9999, and theirs was 99.998. Something it was. So in terms of Australia, their bullion was absolutely meeting the criteria at a very specific requirement that it didn't meet. So then there was people who were in a bit of a flap over that, saying that, well, hang on, it's not the purity, there's issues with the purity and all this. And the other part of that, which was really interesting, is that gold, the other part that wasn't gold was silver. So it was still met the criteria for bullion, it just didn't meet the very strict criteria that was required for whatever that purpose was at that time. Two different things. So if we're talking about the competitor I won't mention, the double selling of the bars has been highly contested from their perspective, but the issue, and it did happen with as well, there was an issue around what they call, and we'll talk about this shortly, they're unallocated, and there was an issue where they didn't have, particularly over COVID, they didn't have the supply available. So when people came to collect their bullion, it wasn't there because they effectively sold it but didn't have the replacement supply on hand. So it wasn't as nefarious as someone simply double selling it, but it also wasn't good. Like, don't get me wrong, it was not good. What we can say, what I can say with absolute certainty, is that at Ainslie, every customer who has product that is owed to them, we have that product. So we do not entertain that at all, that double, even remotely resembling double selling. Yeah, that's right. And in the defence of the competitor that shall not be named, they probably weren't doing that either, but they weren't strictly following that. Make sure if we say we hold it, we hold it. And I think that is actually quite important. So people weren't likely upset. Is how I word that. That's a fantastic question. So the question was, us as a company, can the government, what was it? Government. Can the government come to us and ask us for a list of our clients? And the answer to that, so what we have to do, we do what we have to do. Okay, that's how I'll word the answer to this question. So when you come in, we have to identify our customers. So identifying our customers means, so when you come into the Brisbane store, for example, you come in, we take your ID, and we then scan your ID and store that in an offline computer. There is no connection and no use beyond that. All that we have to be able to say is that we identified that someone came to our store. So no connection between you and anything that you did in that store. The next step of that is a rule that people may be aware of, that anytime you're dealing with cash over $10,000, that does have to be recorded. So we have a quick window, or what do you call it? Sub $5,000 window where people can come in, they don't even have to hand over the ID. They can just come to that window and purchase with cash quantities smaller than $5,000. So there's another technicality why it's a 5, which is escaping me.
So there's two things, it's KYC and AUSTRAC. So KYC is just know your customer. So when you hit $5,000 or more, we have to know the customer. That's what Chris was talking about with the offline scanning. So because we have a lot of stock on hand, anyone who comes through the door, whether you're just there to ask questions or whether you're there to spend $50 billion, we take your ID. It doesn't matter. Anyone, even if you're just a spectator, guest on the side, we take your ID. You have to for security. It also then ticks that box for KYC. So anyone who comes in, gets scanned, goes on the laptop. That's, if anything ever happens, yet we do the right thing. Thanks, let's continue operating. If you're going to spend under $5,000, we do have the window so you can just come and quickly do that because you're not in that KYC amount. Where it actually has to be recorded is AUSTRAC. So that's Counterterrorism and Anti Money Laundering Act, and that is $10,000 physical cash. So it doesn't matter how, which way, where, if it's $10,000 physical cash per person per day, we do have to record that. So it does get a little confusing because we quite often get customers who come in and say, the $5,000 is going to be reported, I've got $6,000. No, it's $6,000, we take the ID of the window to satisfy a box that has to be ticked somewhere. But if it's $10,000 physical cash, we don't have a choice. If we did, I'm sure we would agree on the choice that we would make, but we have to for $10,000 physical cash. No, we don't have, we're not the police, we're a shop. So if you spend $9,000 physical cash, that does not fit in AUSTRAC limit.
Yeah. I've got a question. I believe it was 1930 the American government took your gold reserve from your bank places. But for some reason, I can't remember why, they realized that was a very bad idea. Can you explain the reason what happened there? I probably can't.
So we get the question all the time around confiscation.
Yeah.
And I mean, Cass sort of alluded to this before, saying that yes, that happened, but also how it happened, it wasn't everyone. They were sort of paying the price at that time and they revalued gold, right? So why, to answer your question specifically, they revalued gold straight after that, and then they didn't need to confiscate gold anymore. I think it's an overblown concern, is my response, mostly because if I was needing a whole lot of money, I wouldn't target going after people to try and get the gold that they may have buried somewhere. I would go to their super that's held in big funds. And if I did specifically want gold, I would go for the gold held by the Perth Mint, because Perth Mint is 100% owned by the West Australian government. So there's a lot of...
It was right after the big depression in 1930.
That's right. So that revaluation, why they were collecting all that gold, because at the time gold was convertible, so you could take a note that said it was worth a certain amount of gold. You could take that to the bank and they had to give you the gold. That was creating a big problem because there are other countries as well that had gold issued, or gold that they could potentially redeem. So that was the whole, put the end to that, confiscate the gold side type of situation that happened. But ultimately, it's interesting, but I just don't see that as the thing we should be most concerned about in this modern time. All right.
Typically in the US, the gold only exists for investment for people.
In the US, only accounts for 0.5 of their investment.
Oh.
So you're looking at, I think it's about an 11 or 12 trillion dollar industry completely. I think silver only 2 or something similar. They got a debt of 36 and something trillion growing, and that's just the debt that's. They've got unfunded liability debt as well, somewhere in the vicinity of 170 trillion. So the US is in the hole upwards or close to $200 trillion. I don't think confiscating gold is going to do much good at all. They've got big problems in that.
You reckon Fort Knox is empty?
And, well, that's always a controversial question, is Fort Knox empty? We've certainly, there's a lot of speculation around that, but I think to Matt's point, it ultimately doesn't matter. Question?
My question is related to gold jewellery.
Yes.
We have quite a lot of bullion. We've been, Alexander's been involved with Ainslie for a very long time. One of your original clients, I think.
I love it.
Yeah. It's really about, I've got quite a lot of gold rings. And I'm just wondering in terms of carat, how gold, like an ounce of gold, is that like 24
So yeah,
carat
that's
gold?
right. So
Yeah,
pure gold in the carat system is 24 carat, and you just work it out proportionally from there. So 18 is 18 out of 24.
Right, okay, so when you say an ounce of gold, that's 24 carat gold?
No, so ounce is the weight of gold. So this coin is 1 ounce of gold.
But is it 24 carat gold?
But this is 24 carat gold, yes. So that was that original conversation around bullion, what makes it the
I
big
understand all that, I get that, but I just wanted to, from a carat perspective.
From a carat perspective, these are 24 carat, yes, absolutely. And to that point, actually, we have a number of jewellers who will come by, particularly old and tarnished bars and things that we go, because they don't care what it looks like, so they melt it down and use it. I mean, they dilute it effectively by adding the other things to make it stronger, which reduces the quality. But they can buy even old bars and things and just convert them. Yes, absolutely. All right, I'm very conscious of time, and yes. No, so gold will not tarnish. Gold will maintain its look. Silver will tarnish over time. At the end of the day, a point that we made earlier, it doesn't matter what it looks like. When you sell it back, we pay you for its bullion content. So we pay you the same amount, whether it is tarnished or not. Some people are very particular about their tarnish because they really want the shiny bar. They all come, when they're new, they're all nice and shiny, and over time tarnish, but it actually makes no difference to the value. It's only the and that's often why, particularly with silver coins and things, some of them will come in capsules that try and just reduce the air flow, which reduces the tarnish. That's all. Question? Yes. Yes. Let me get to that in one moment because then we actually address something similar to that, and we'll address that one. Next question. That's also a really interesting question. The amount of gold in particular that you need to buy the average house has remained somewhat steady over time. It fluctuates, but that's what's really interesting about gold holding its purchasing value over thousands of years. So we can also address that shortly because we'll actually cover a slide. I am conscious of time. I don't want to go too much on, so I'll go through a few of these and just hit some key points as quickly as possible. I love this picture because what we're highlighting here is something we've all talked about on the panel this evening, that a lot of things, if the market crashes, to your question and to what Cass was talking about, people think they're diversified because they might own different shares, for example. They go, oh, I've got some different shares, I've got my property. The problem is, it's good if you've got a lot of different eggs but in different baskets, but if all of those baskets are on the same truck, that's what that's showing. So you don't, the problem that we see is on this next slide, which somewhat answers your question, questions about performance, but I'll specifically on the next one talk about property. When you see gold in particular operating as a counter, it's sort of uncorrelated to everything else. So when the share market has been falling, we see these years listed here where we had massive falls in the share market. They were the years where gold actually did the best. So it's not about having all your money necessarily in precious metals, but it is about having something that is uncorrelated, so they're not on the same truck. You might have your eggs in different baskets, but this is something that's not even on the same truck. That's the analogy that we're trying to make there. Huge difference when you look at that over time that makes by having that little bit of diversification. To answer your housing one, this is my favourite graph as well. So this one is going back to 2000, and this has been updated, I think, as recently as today, showing the performance of various asset classes. So the green down the bottom here is cash, including compound interest. It obviously is the least performing asset there. Shares, the blue line, is actually performing less than silver now over that period of time. And people go, and that's including your dividends being reinvested, by the way. So shares are underperforming. Houses are second from the top, the red line. So housing has somewhat kept up. The problem with housing is you can't sell it in little bits. Yeah, that's probably the issue, but housing has done very well if you have some, very difficult if you're trying to get into that market, and silver is actually third there. Gold is obviously the one at the top that is outperformed. Now, what's really interesting about that is gold is out, this answers a question. What about the return? Because people go, but I'd rather have my money in the share market because I'm getting dividends, and Cass referred to this earlier. It doesn't matter in this scenario. Gold has still outperformed even with those dividends being reinvested when you're looking at the ASX. It's outperformed housing even with rent, because that includes the rent aspect of it. It's outperformed pretty much everything else. Okay, and that's a really important distinction that maybe goes a little bit of the way to answering the housing question that we had. I also love this chart. Bitcoin up here is a new addition. It just shows how big these markets are. And when you look at gold, it's actually tiny. Matt, you said this before about gold being your supply. Was it you or did you say that? James, you said that, sorry. The supply issue. If you've got art, this always blows me away that the art market is half again bigger than the gold market. It blows me away when you look at how much money is in that market. And to James's point earlier, one of his favourite things about gold. If people all of a sudden decide they want to go into that market, what's going to happen? There's only one thing that can move: the price. It's the only thing that can move. There can't all of a sudden be more supply until we want to bring some back from Mars or something. But yeah, that's the future goal. Cars and collectibles also then, 6 trillion, like that's half the size of the gold market, cars and collectibles market. Absolutely amazing. So people who think they're too late, I don't think that's what that's showing at all. We talked a little bit about crypto. I'm going to skip this, but certainly if you have some specific questions that you want to ask about crypto, come up and speak to Matt about that at the end, because he is a wealth of knowledge on all of that. Bitcoin in particular is, I think Barry mentioned it before, if that was his option, that's the one he would choose.
That previous chart, yeah.
So crypto is developing, the use cases are developing. Big players such as, I don't like mentioning their name, but yes, ones who should not be named, they're entering this space because they see value in what's coming. And what are they doing? Okay, you may have heard the word tokenization, and we could actually probably get to that on Ainslie's particular product that we have available, which is tokenized gold and silver. But tokenization is coming to this world, like it or not. The previous slide, if you can imagine tokenized money, if I said USDT, USDC, RLUSD, PAX USD, it's tokenized US dollars. Bonds, well, I know for a particular company that has just launched its RLUSD and it has to back it up with bonds. So they're actually tokenizing bonds now as well. Real estate, another company I know is involved in crypto is tokenizing real estate in Hong Kong. So suddenly that can free up the liquidity in your house or in a bunch of houses or in a block of houses in the middle of Hong Kong. Equities, so now you're tokenized in Apple stock because someone, or Berkshire Hathaway, which is $330,000 for one stock. I can't afford that. But $3,300, yeah, maybe I can get an oomph of it. Well, that's tokenizing it. So that's equities. Art, well, I know they're tokenizing art. That's happening now. So if you imagine a Da Vinci that goes on sale, they sell a tiny little square of that, and it's for $1,000. You own a little bit of that, and it's all registered on the blockchain and it's yours. So when you get that tiny little appreciation over time, you can sell it to the next person because they see value over time. So art is getting tokenized. Gold, the product that we have, which is the gold and silver token, it's tokenized gold. It starts at $1 grand, back 1 to 1. Currently, it's about $131, I think, for the tokenized, and you can store it to verifiable on the blockchain that it exists. Can you see how all of these assets, and trust me, with gold and silver, I have some. I sleep very well at night having a position in gold and silver. That's my Z time. I love gold and silver. But then there's this other side of me that says, well, I need to find a way to get ahead. All right, and this is one of the fastest moving asset classes on the planet. We saw some charts here before with regards to housing and equities and gold and so forth. There was one on there that wasn't kind of recorded because it doesn't go back to like 1980 or whatever it is. It started in 2009. And if you track it, it's actually going to be probably close to off the chart.
We do have another version of the chart where we put it on there that all these lines are sort of flat at the bottom because it's gone up so much.
Yeah. So there is a lot of growth, and again, look at the size of it in the little boxes. We're in for all the cryptos involved, we're at 2.13 trillion total for the whole crypto market. But all these things here are value that is being tokenized. That's just one use case. We're not talking other use cases as far as data and all this sort of stuff. It's too confusing on not tonight. But tokenization, all this value can move into that little orange box. What do you think the little box is going to do? It's going to bring all this value on chain. So that's where I challenge you tonight to start your journey to understand what is it? Is it just, it's just a Bitcoin, it's just a little thing. It's more than that. There's technology out there that's more than that. I won't go into much more because it can get confusing, but there is potential and there is opportunity. And that's for your journey, and that's for you guys to sort of start on. I'm here to help you if you need it.
Yeah, BlackRock is looking to do some things like that. I haven't gone in depth on that, but yes, there is some. Even this question to be well, if I knew that, I'd go outside.
Okay.
What I would say, Matt's very passionate about it. In fact, we're all quite passionate about the crypto side. It's definitely something I concur. Like, it's something for you to consider as that extra juice. You know, we're saying the gold and silver is about the proven track record, thousands of years, 5,000 years of knowing what's going to happen there and how to protect yourself. Bitcoin is about making some money. So it's worth having a conversation with someone like Matt about that. We say compliments bullion. This whole conversation is really, really worthwhile. So I do encourage people to have that conversation with us. I'll only talk about this fairly briefly because we have sort of implied or covered it a little bit, but we actually have several storage options. So it's not just about taking it home. A lot of people do that. You know, you want to take it home, but the problem with taking it home is you've got to have somewhere safe to store it, and insurance can be quite tricky. Most insurers don't actually like insuring gold and silver in your home because obviously it's very easy to have someone take it or say it was stolen when it wasn't. There's lots of issues around insuring gold and silver in your home. The best form of insurance is that no one knows you have it. That's the best form of insurance. That you hide it somewhere, no one knows it's there. That's probably the best way to do it at home. The insurance angle of trying to pay for insurance is very tricky to do. What we do have though that is fully insured is the vault. So we have a vault in Brisbane, the Reserve Vault, which is right next door to City Hall there. Underground, it used to be the old Reserve Bank vault, so it's ultra high security. We also have the Melbourne Vault down in Melbourne. Both of them, you can have your own box and your own key. And a really interesting fact about that is that when we talk about confiscation and things, there's been, I remember reading quite a bit on this when they were talking about bank safe deposit boxes, and when you're putting stuff in a bank safe deposit box, did it actually belong to you or did it belong to the bank? Because ultimately it was like an asset on their balance sheet. Now, I don't know enough specifics to really give you advice on that, but what I do know from our side is that because we are private vaults and you have legal ownership of that storage space, it's not like that, it's not on our balance sheet, it's your personal property. So you have the key, you have the lock. Us breaking into your, or letting anyone else break into yours would be us stealing from you, if that makes sense. So legally that's very different to a bank safe deposit box where they go and put it in for you. So that's one option that is available. Yes. So there's a couple of different options. One of them is allocated where we will store it, your bars for you, and not. So sorry, I'll go back one step. Safe deposit boxes from $25 a month. That's where you have the key and your own box, and you can put whatever you like in there. The other option is what we call allocated storage, where we go to put it in our safe for you, and there the price is there. So gold or platinum is $15.50 an ounce per annum, silver $18.70 a kilo per annum. So that's fully insured, that's us storing it for you. The other option starts at $25. The $25 box is, for perspective, probably similar to that box. Oh, that's a bit different. It's sort of long, it's like a long, narrow box that would hold quite a lot of gold, probably 20 plus kilos of silver, something like that. Yeah, sure. So that the vaulting where we get you the vault, you have the key, the padlock is all, if that's all yours, you just book an appointment time to go in and access your vault. You can access that securely in a private closed room. That starts with $25 a month, and they go up to, there's massive safes in there for people who are storing tons of silver, for example. So yeah, that, just going back, I'm not all over the place here, but we have that allocated, we've got the vaults where you have itself allocated where we store it for you, but they're your specific bars. We also have what is called unallocated storage. And that was what we were a little bit talking about before when we were a little bit of controversy from what's happened in the past with other bullion dealers. That is where you buy into a pool of metal. So there are no storage fees with that, they're fully insured. And for the main reason people buy that is because it's very cost effective. It's the cheapest way to sort of buy and store bullion. What you get is you get an online, you've got like an account that shows your metal. You can still come in and redeem your metal, so you can say you want to take that metal out and we will give you the metal. The difference here, with the allocated, it's your bars, you chose what bars you wanted. With the allocated, we get to decide. So if you're taking 15 kilos of silver out of your unallocated, it's up to us which 15 kilos we give you. Now, as I said before, it doesn't matter because they're all the same, like from a bullion perspective, but people who care about what bars they're getting will go to the allocated option, people who don't care will go to the unallocated. From a self-managed super perspective, unallocated, it's a little bit complicated. I mean, it's not that complicated. You might want to just briefly talk about this, Cass. To do the auditing process that you have to do with self-managed super fund, that's actually really easy, unallocated, because you get a document and auditors love the document.
Yeah, so just on that, a lot of my self-managed super fund clients do hold the physical bullion at home in a safe, and that is perfectly fine. What you need to do at the end of every year is take a photo of it on a newspaper, just to prove to the auditor that you still have it, you haven't gone to it. But a lot of my clients are, just because it's nice and simple, Ainsley are holding it for you. When you want to cash it in, you simply email them and say, I need $10,000 this month, sell some, transfer me the money. So it just becomes really easy to move money around with the allocated and unallocated.
Yes. Whilst ever is in a self-managed super fund.
The question here was, once you've reached retirement, do you still need to take a photo of it? The answer is yes. Whilst ever is held in a self-managed super fund, you need to super once you're 60. No problem. But why would you do that when the tax rate in SMSF is 0? So if you buy the gold and silver, you may be 60. But if you buy that in the SMSF and it skyrockets in value, it's all tax-free. The gain is tax-free. You can take it all out of super, buy the gold and silver in your personal name, and pay 48% tax on it. So you have to pay tax on the capital gain in any asset that you sell in Australia. No. We hold all that and have all the gains, and it's all tax-free. So that's why you would still go to the effort of having the super fund, photographing it every year, being compliant. We don't like compliance, but if you are compliant, it's all 0% tax. In the super fund, if in the super fund over 60, it's a 0% tax. In your own name, it's a capital gain subject to tax in your tax return. If you kept under the 5,000 limit, there's no record, you can run the gauntlet. Not that I'm giving tax advice here. But if you've got more than that, it's all on the record. They could. I used to work for the tax department, and there will probably come a day in time when the tax department might do a full audit of gold dealers' records and say, give us the record of everybody that's bought and sold. We're going to do a capital gains tax analysis on it. So, yeah, then you'll be fine. It depends on how much you've got. But I've got clients in super, for example, might have 100,000, 200,000. You're still better off having them try and play with the $5,000 limit.
I'd just like to reinforce that point. That is why we're such strong partners with Freedom Financial, because ultimately there's a big, I'll call it a loophole. There's a big loophole there that you can do all of that legally, particularly at retirement age. It is absolutely worth having a conversation with Cass or Mary Jane or her team just to see how that applies, because there was stuff I didn't know and I thought I was fairly over it. I can assure you they're on the same page of not wanting to pay more than the necessary amount to help you do that effectively. And it started me from I don't need to look into my super because I'm sort of self-employed that doesn't have to, I'm not working someone that needs to pay me. So, but I've started putting money into my super based on listening capacity. It impacts your ability to get a pension, those sorts of things. Obviously, nobody knows what you're storing at home. What we're talking about here is what your obligation, like you have a tax obligation, that if you made gains when you sell it, but that's on you. So what you choose to do is none of our business in that regard. But for people with larger amounts that want to find a way to legally not pay any tax on their super side of it, has changed my mind, because that's all well and good, except you've got to get that money out at some point. You want it in your bank account so you can use it to go buy whatever you want to buy with it. It doesn't necessarily accept cash. There are some benefits to having it done the right way, is what I would say. It's worth a conversation. We talked about the goals, we talked about allocated, we talked about unallocated. We've talked quite a bit about self-managed super funds. Obviously, that's an area that Cass is the expert at. Really, what changed my mind on this was the moment the penny dropped, and that's sticky, that piece, and Cass applied it. Cass sort of implied this before, but the moment the penny dropped to me, that I could hold my super in my hand. Because as a number of people in here will realise, when we went through COVID recently, wasn't that long ago, and those funds froze, people couldn't get access to withdraw their money out of their super funds. Very volatile. Funds were frozen, bank accounts were frozen, and people couldn't get it out. Because I always sort of thought, oh, well, what does it matter? Because ultimately you can't touch it anyway. Well, when I realised that it was in my possession, and I do the same as crypto, so I've got Bitcoin in my super fund, it's in my possession. That was a light bulb moment for me. Hang on a second. I can access this because it's in my possession. Might not be able to access a fund because a third party has control over it, but my physical super is in my hand right now. Calculate, because I tell you, it was a big change in my perspective. And that point. Oh yeah, that was what I was talking about before. The eggs all in the same truck. This is a line that Cass was talking about as well. You don't get to choose the market when you retire, and it was just absolutely devastating. I had an uncle and auntie during the global financial crisis who were right at that retirement age and absolutely decimated their retirement savings. And a lot of people here will remember that period of time and know people in a similar situation. You don't get to choose when that happened. They had to work for another decade of time to still recover from that. So you don't get to choose when that happens. Uncorrelated balance is actually referring to this chart here. During those years, when everything goes to hell, that's the years where precious metals do their best. So having at least some of it in there would have helped to offset and balance that out, and would have protected people who went through that. And it was absolutely, I don't know, it was devastating for so many people. I mean, I probably think, in the for the sake of time, they just make it really easy. Okay, for people who are a little bit scared about setting up a self-managed super fund, you need to speak to Cass and her team because it's not as scary as it seems, and is worth considering. I know people probably already have one, but once you really do understand the advantages, you don't go back. I mean, yeah, even the young guys in the office who never normally be thinking about super, once they understand how all of this works, they're confident and they're actively involved in the super. It's well worth considering. I want to just probably hand over to and what makes us special, and then we'll follow that up with the Freedom Financial Services solutions difference. So just have that in the back of your mind, Cash, ready to go. But Bailey, just wrap this up. What makes us different from everyone else?
Yeah, a few things. So, namely the face-to-face. So a lot of bullion dealers, particularly, are just the thing we mentioned before. They're just a sub-5 window. You walk up, it's just a shop, very non-interpersonal situation. Do your transaction, off you go. At Ainslie, we don't differentiate whether or not you're just going to buy or talk or do storage. Every person who comes in, unless they want to go to that sub-5 window, can come in and have a proper consultation. Close the door, no live streams, conversation with a consult, and discuss in a more personal way all of the stuff we spoke about tonight. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that, especially in the time that I have been there, a lot of customers have said like that changes everything, to actually be able to have a private conversation, an honest and open and private conversation about your money and storing it and preserving it. So I think that's a really big one. I think we're pretty flexible, I would like to say, in terms of how transactions can go. So, with the crypto stuff, we can do swaps back and forward, gold to silver back and forth. And I would argue in my position at Ainslie, with my literal occupation of the job, one of the biggest things that we do have with Ainslie that I think we do have over the competitors is we do have quite a deep liquidity. Our access to metal means that we don't often have any issues with things like ability to give stock to customers in unallocated. If you want to sell something back to us, we don't care if it's a 1 ounce silver coin or dozens of kilos of gold or tons of silver, which have happened quite literally very recently for my position in the job. So we have that relation. We have relationships with refiners. We have international relationships. So our deep liquidity allows us to always buy it back off you. So that's a big one that I think for a lot of people, a lot of places are happy to sell it to you, but then when you want to bring back that ton, then it's a harder conversation. So that I think is actually a really, really important one, especially for self-managed super funds, which you assume the quantities are larger. And easy, I think, is a big one. We try and make it as easy as possible. Because we have that one-on-one consultation, everyone's situation will be a little bit different. Some people want to go under 5K, some people want to do more. So we try and make everything as easy as possible, especially for those in this room. There are certain conversations around privacy and so on. We definitely correlate and agree with that message as well. So definitely try and make it easy and private is a good one to, I suppose, leave with.
Thanks, Bailey. And Kaz, talk to us about what makes you different.
So I think the main thing that makes us different is the one here in the middle, being highly experienced. So as I mentioned before, I've been doing SMSF since 1999, 26 years, and there's not many people that can claim that. And then we've set up Freedom Financial Solutions, which is primarily for the freedom movement. So that is something that a lot of our clients really appreciate, that when they read my office and talk to my staff, March Against Mandatory Vaccinations, she was also standing for the Heart Party. They used to be the informed medical choices. So we are talking about people who are highly experienced, but also like-minded with yourselves. So highly experienced. There are SMSF online providers that are cheaper than us. That is very much for a reason. They're very, very cheap and nasty. You try and do it. Most clients that try and do it end up not getting through the process and coming to us to get help. The other thing with us, we mentioned it might not be on there, but race issue. We're actually real people. When you ring our office, we will answer the phone We have the online Q&As, we have our office people who come in for meetings. Mary Jane does free one-on-one consults. We're real people, ready to answer all of your questions whenever you have them, not just an online service. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's all, we do all of that for you. So on the earlier slides we've flipped through, but it's all in the brochures on your chair and they're over there. We set up the SMSF for you. We set up the bank account, we set up the ABM, we set up the TFN, we do the rollover, we hold your hand, and then we do the lodgement of the financial statements and tax returns every year after. So we hold your hand, and what, on one of those slides was that we do 97% of the work for you. It may be self-managed super, and a lot of people get scared about that and go, oh, I don't know the first thing, I don't have for you. We send it to you for signatory, and we're there to answer all your questions, but we do all the work for you. No good. Yeah. No. No, I'm aware entirely. We have to legally, the tax office requires us to have an independent auditor, and that's good for you because they're double checking what we've done. They all agree that you can have gold and silver stored at home. A lot of accountants and auditors will say you can't. Just come to us instead because our accountants and auditors say you can. We do recommend Macquarie Bank, and some people have an issue with that because they were one of the first banks to go cashless. But our answer to that, and I sent out an email and a video on it, it wasn't an issue to us because SMSF cashless anyway. So, and Macquarie is an SMSF specialist banking. So Macquarie basically only do SMSFs and mortgages, so them going cashless, it really wasn't an issue.
A lot of people have been burned and pickled. We're only speaking with Cass in this sort of forum because we know she knows her team know what they're doing. So it matters where you get your advice from on that. Absolutely. All right. So we'll be around for a little bit longer. Thank you so much for providing us with the opportunity to come and speak here this evening. But yeah, feel free to come and speak to any of us with any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a wealth of information. Big round of applause again, please. Great panel, great information. Thank you very much. Now, Hayley's over there with the bucket. If anybody would like to make a small donation towards our community fundraising and contributions, she's just going to come around. But yeah, please feel free to have a chat. I'm sure you guys are going to stay for a little while longer. Ooh! Promo code, 50% discount if you can remember every single name of every person that spoke tonight on the panel. No, just kidding. Excellent. Oh, everything is appreciated at this time in the world when everything seems to be going up. A promotional code is most appreciated. Thank you. And next week, next meeting, just quickly before we break and have a bit more of a chat, we have an amazing gentleman by the name of Greg Simons. It might be pronounced Simmons. Apologies if I'm saying it wrong. And he's going to be doing a deep dive into our personalities. So Sandy's smiling at me. I know, you didn't know, or did you know? Did you know you did know? I thought you knew. Yes, so I'm very, very excited about our upcoming meeting, which will be on the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November. All right, over and out, guys.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!